All right, let me push record. So yay! I'm excited about this one because as you know, this one's going to be a fun one to learn exactly what foods we need to start using to help out with, like you were saying, with fibromyalgia, right? With inflammation, we need to reduce the inflammation. We need to, make sure our gut health is in control, our anxiety, our stress. I have migraines in there, adrenal fatigue. So we're going to talk all of that today so that way we can really get you feeling better. And so I'm going to share my screen so you can actually see the webinar. Woo! All right. So this is Cooking for Your Health Condition webinar. And today what we're going to be covering is the anti-inflammatory foods, gut healing foods, foods used to reduce anxiety, the adrenal fatigue fighting foods, and how to eat to reduce migraines. And as we go along with this, you're going to start realizing that food, like one food can be used for 3 different ways. So it's not so complex where you're going to be having this huge smorgasbord of meals. It's just realizing, okay, that this food has this amount of properties to be able to help me with this, and this. So it's going to be really fun. Fun for you to kind of see everything. So obviously there's a big list. I could go individually to tell you exactly what foods are anti-inflammatory. But before I even dive into the actual list of anti-inflammatory foods, we're going to talk a little bit about processed foods and what happens when you do that, when you eat that. So processed foods are going to be man-made items. Those are going to be food like, and that's a big thing, food like meals, packages, whatever you want to call it. If it was in a box, we want to make sure that we are reading the ingredients, because it is not necessarily the calories or the amount of fat or protein in it. It's the quality of the food within it that's going to really have the biggest impact. So you want to make sure that you count your chemicals, not your calories. And so that's going to be the big one right there, because when we have processed foods, what it's going to be doing inside of our body is, one, we don't digest it. So we're missing out on all of the other nutrients that could be, that we could get if we were to eat a meal that looks like this. Or what it actually can do too, with many people that have autoimmune with other issues, hormonal issues, is that it can act like the hormone. And actually they're called endocrine disruptors. The processed foods have these things in them that will attach themselves to the hormone receptor sites, and that blocks the actual hormones in your body from attaching themselves and doing what they need to do. So the big way we start improving and seeing the results is start incorporating more of these into your routine. Vegetables and fruits are really, really good sources of anti-inflammatory, because they are their antioxidants. You have your polyphenols. And then you also have your phytonutrients. So phyto is light. And so one thing that I've started doing, and it was just kind of only a recent practice of mine, is putting my fruits and vegetables near the sun. And one of the things I was starting to think about, and I read an article on this, and it was just like, oh yeah, that's so, I don't know why I haven't started doing this. But if you think about fruits and veggies, when they come, they get this beautiful sunlight that they're, grown in, and then we bring them inside, and all those phytonutrients, which are really good protective properties, start diminishing. And so one things that we can start doing, if you think about, the Europeans, they eat outside so much, right? They have their foods are always outside or hanging by a window, is because it does get that sun to help out, making sure that you're going to get that freshness, that ripeness. However, it will cause your fruit and veggies to speed up the process. So, if you normally shop once a week, maybe rotate certain vegetables, by the window and rotate them out. It's a little bit more work, but it might help, save you from, feeling swollen and in pain. And the thing about the fruit and veggies is that we want to start eating the rainbow. Every color is going to provide you with a different antioxidant, a different polyphenol. And so the more vibrant the color, so the more deeper. So this purple cabbage right here is going to have more antioxidants in it than the green or white cabbage. Same thing with the purple carrot. It's going to be more nutrient dense than they have yellow and white, and obviously the orange carrots. So the deeper the color, the more nutrient dense it's going to be.
Can I ask a question about that?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I ferment stuff. I'll do like my sauerkraut, and pardon me, I do carrots too with ginger and juniper berries. Should I be choosing like the purple cabbage instead of the green cabbage for fermenting? Is that going to make a difference in that fermentation process?
It shouldn't make a difference in the actual fermentation process. I mean, fermenting is based on the sugar content, so it is going to be a little bit more sweeter. So you might actually ferment a little bit faster with the deeper. The deeper colors typically do have a little bit more sugar content, except for the greens. So if the deeper greens aren't going to have as much, those are going to be more bitter, but the deeper reds and purples and oranges are going to, the deeper the color of those are going to have a little bit more sugar content, which is fine. So it might help out with the fermentation process, I would think.
Okay, awesome.
So yeah, no, I think that's a very smart thing to do, except for juniper berries reminds me of gin, and I do not like gin. So to each their own. That's why there's all these different flavors out there. We get to what we like. But yeah, no, that's an excellent, idea to do. And we'll definitely talk about that a little bit more when we go into the gut health, because that's huge. That's really huge into making sure that we're feeling well and feeling good. And then the omega-3 fatty acids, what these do, so that I get the antioxidants. Let me specify real quick what antioxidants do. I said what they are, but what they actually do is their role is to go out there, like they're scavengers. They like to go out and find any damage that has been done in the body. And what they do, and every color, every different antioxidant has a different route. So like the orange ones are going to be, there's a lot of them that scavenge out just for the eyes to make sure your eyes are protected. And the cool thing is the red is more of the heart. So you can kind of go into it. It does kind of lead up to, what colors and how, walnuts look like a brain. They're healthy for the brain, right? So our food is kind of giving us some signs of what it's useful for. And so what those do, they scavenger out, and they protect the cell from either future damage or reverse the damage that has been done already on that cell. So it helps keep you vibrant and feeling good. And the omega-3 fatty acids, what these do is they are anti-inflammatory. They are the ones that are like nature's aspirin. They reduce inflammation just by within minutes of you eating it. So that the key with all of these is that we want to be doing these all throughout the day. I've run into many of my clients say, okay, I started adding the flaxseed in, and I don't feel any difference. I'm like, well, did you add your nuts in, as a snack? Did you add the avocado to your dinner? Did you, add seeds as a second part of your snack or on your salad or something? And they're like, oh no, I forgot. So we have to think about, we're putting our body under stress all throughout the day. So it needs to be a constant, like it's basically a constant battle. Like even just taking deep breaths. I know, with Chantel, you're big into yoga. And so taking deep breaths actually make free radicals. And that's something that is we can't avoid it. We have to breathe. So that's something that, you don't even think, okay, like meditation is it's amazing at relaxing the body, but just that breathing itself it's just what happens. It's a byproduct of breathing. And those free radicals is what those antioxidants and the omega-3 fatty acids, that's what their jobs is to do, is to reduce the inflammation, to reduce the amount of damage that's already been done with that. And then you go into grains, and most people kind of get into the idea of grains are bad for us. They actually cause inflammation. Grains are not evil. I don't know where everyone thinks that this is something evil that we need to avoid, but grains like oatmeal, rice, quinoa, flour, even whole wheat flour, all of these, when they're in the whole wheat form, they actually contain some of this omega-3 fatty acids. And not only that, but those type of grains, what they're good for is pushing poop through our intestines. And so if stool is sitting in our intestines too long, it can cause inflammation. So it helps push things through. It helps bulk up our stool to help, us push it out of us and relieve ourselves. So it really does, it's important. It does provide us with some B vitamins that we sometimes can lack in. And that's something that we'll talk later about stress and how much we fly through B vitamins. So it's really important to constantly incorporate these. Legumes and beans are also, they also have some antioxidants, phytonutrients properties to them as well. So, and also the fiber is really important. So what do we include in an anti-inflammatory meal? Again, we want to eat the rainbow. We want to make sure this is a meal, and I apologize, y'all, about the coffee, and I am trying my hardest not to. Eat the rainbow is that's when we're looking at a meal, even if you're finding a recipe that you found online on Pinterest, or maybe it's something that you passed down from, your mom or your grandma. I want you to look at that recipe and go like, okay, what color is missing? What else can I start adding into that? And start altering your recipes, and don't just always go straight, by the book. Start adding in the color, see what else you can add in. And you want to try to hit as many food groups as possible. And I do write minus the dairy. Dairy can definitely be more inflammatory. So we do have to be a little bit aware of the amount of dairy that we're consuming. I recommend everyone to do less than half a cup of dairy a day. So this will include your cheese, if you want your Greek yogurt at breakfast or whatever it may be. We need to, dairy has its place in our diet, but I think, the Dairy Council has kind of taken over, for the last 20 years and has put into our mind that we need all this because of the calcium. We need the calcium. When in reality, so many vegetables and so many nuts and seeds have calcium in it too. So we don't really need as much as we think we do. So I think it's going to be really smart to just kind of look at it and see what else is missing. What else can I add in? And the reason why you want to hit as many food groups as possible at every meal and also snack is because of the blood sugars. So if we were just to eat something, let's say a sweet potato, we know it's really healthy for us, right? But let's just say that's all I want to have as a snack. Yes, it has some fiber to help out with releasing some of that sugar into my bloodstream. But what happens is that you eat that sweet potato and it digests really fast. So carbohydrates are the first thing that digests, then protein, then fat. And so if we eat something that is just heavy in carbs, whether it's healthy for us or not, it's released into our bloodstream a lot faster. So meaning our blood sugars go whoop, really high. And then here comes insulin, a nice hormone, which is great to help reduce it and lower it down. But if we're having this happening all the time and having so much insulin itself can be inflammatory. And so insulin also you can kind of equate to weight gain. It is stored energy. That's how we let the energy into our cells. It's the key that unlocks the cell to allow energy in, AKA our carbohydrates, our glucose. And so the way we combat that to use less of that insulin, what we do is start adding in a protein or a fat into what we're eating. So if I were to have that sweet potato, if I just sprinkled on some ground up flaxseed, something simple like that, it's not going to change the taste of anything, might add a little bit of a texture, but just adding in a little bit of that combination of protein and fat is going to make sure that your blood sugars don't go whoop. They do a nice little steady release. And then again, we want to make sure we have those quality ingredients. Those are going to be the main things here, is over and over again, quality always counts. And you can kind of see here, like this looks like it's a intense meal, but it really wasn't that much work that was done with it. So it's you can either use a can of black beans here or raw and cook them up from scratch. So it doesn't have to be huge and complex. It is just, okay, let's look at the different colors and let me just add them all in. And while you're doing that, you're going to be hitting most of the food groups anyways. And again, you gotta be prepared, because if we have quality ingredients on hand, I always have, like, there's always still cut oats, there's always flaxseed, chia seeds, nuts. There's always those staple items in my cupboard at all times. So that way I can, if I need to, go, like this morning, I had my oatmeal, but then before I woke up at 5, but before I walked my daughter to school, I wanted a little bit more. So I had a half a banana and grabbed some walnuts, and that was my snack on the way out the door. So if you have those high quality ingredients on hand, you're going to choose those more often, and they're going to be your go-to ones. And a lot of these items are going to be really like fast food. Like your nuts and seeds are fast food items. They're fast. You just grab them and go. I keep them a lot in my purse. I always keep them in my car, unless they're, in the dead of summer, at heat of summer. Fats can, if they're under too much heat, they can go rancid. So you don't want to do that. But right now, in, the cooler temperatures, it's great to keep in your car to be able to just, okay, if I need to go anywhere, I can at least have this, a handful of nuts, and that'll help stabilize my blood sugars. That'll help make sure that I reduce any inflammation, and it's going to give you some energy to kind of keep going. And then, so now we're going to talk so this is kind of like a continuation, like all of these are going to be flowing into each other. So we just got done talking about an anti-inflammatory. So those are the foods that we're going to be, you're going to be incorporating more into. And then in addition to anti-inflammatory, we need to make sure that gut health is on point, because if the gut health isn't on point, the rest of the body will be inflamed. So this, like I said, these are definitely tied together. And if you are feeling like your gut is just kind of wrecked right now, like I've had a couple clients that like say, okay, I eat something and then immediately I feel like I'm like 9 months pregnant. So if you get really bloated after eating some things, or you're just constipated frequently, raw vegetables actually, raw veggies right here. That's right. Raw vegetables actually can wreak a little bit more havoc on our gut than cooked vegetables. So if you're having any trouble digesting foods right now, make sure everything is cooked properly, because gut health issues result in diminished enzyme production and the altered gut microbiome, which is our good bacteria in our gut. So basically, raw vegetables need more enzymes to break down, and when your gut's all a wreck, it doesn't have that ability to break it down. So that's when you get the bloating and discomfort and just not fun. And like we said about the gut healing fluids, anti-inflammatory, huge. So just definitely go back to the previous slides to look at those. Actually, the previous slides, I wanted to mention, I've tried uploading these slides to give to y'all. So if y'all are wanting a copy of these slides, you need to reach out to me individually, and I need to figure out a way to send it to you, because I've tried doing a zip, and I've tried all sorts of ways, and it's just, they're too large to upload into the emails for y'all. I don't know why. So yeah, just let me know if you want those, and we can figure out a way to send them to each other, or send them to you. Probiotics. Okay, so Chantel earlier was saying that she ferments cabbage and carrots and other vegetables, and that is really, really important to make sure that we're doing all the time. However, if you are, let's say you're just like, okay, I'm constipated, I'm not, I poop every couple of days, or maybe you're opposite, or you're having diarrhea frequently, or maybe you just had antibiotics, because it's that time of the that time of the year for everyone to be hacking up along like I am. But what happens is if we are only having the little bit amount of fermented food, sometimes that's not enough to repopulate the gut. Meaning that we should have about 2 pounds of good bacteria in our gut at any given time. So if we've had diarrhea, have been on antibiotics, have been on birth control, oral contraceptives actually can alter the gut microbiome. So it can actually change the amount, what type of bacteria is in your gut. So if you start noticing maybe that you start getting yeast infections, or, other, vaginal issues down there too, that could be a sign that also I need to start taking a probiotic. Yes, eat the sauerkraut, the kimchi, kombucha, Greek yogurt, miso, do all of that in addition to, but more than likely you're going to need a little bit more help with that. And then the good thing about the probiotics, and we'll get to that in a second, is that they're going to be eating the foods that you're feeding your body. So it's kind of cool. Like I said, we'll touch base on that a little bit more in depth here in a second. And one thing, if we're going to be starting to do more probiotics and start incorporating more of these fruits and vegetables and whole grains, we have to make sure that we're doing enough water. If we're not drinking enough water when we are starting to increase all of this, watch out for constipation, watch out for bloating. So water will help kind of make sure everything is flowing nicely. So, of course, I'm drinking some, I have some caffeine-free chai tea right here. And so I do drink tea as well. So I'm not saying you can't ever do that, but just be more aware of the amount of water that you're doing. And then again, removal of processed foods is huge, 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 huge. So they have done so many studies that show like how much processed foods are just wrecking our gut health. And you have to think about it too, is that you're not only is it causing inflammation, is it causing issues, but you're also just lacking now all the other nutrients that are there in our foods to make you feel good. So you have this kind of like double-edged sword with the processed foods. It's gonna hurt you no matter what. And if you're not feeling horrible initially when you eat it, enough over time will definitely get you into not feeling so hot. So what do we need to do to help out with the gut, right? Make sure, I don't know if y'all can see. Okay, so the good bacteria eats the fiber in our foods, and then the fiber, what it does is it's their little, it's like a nice little ecosystem that we have going around in our gut. And that good bacteria is really, really crucial. If you have like a leaky gut, or if you've ever heard that term, what happens is when we get to that point, and I'll come back to that slide, is a poor diet and stress will weaken the gut wall. And then what happens is the partially digested food will pass through the gut wall barrier. And so this can either be the processed food. This could be part of an apple. It could be something that it doesn't matter what it is. If you have a weak gut that has broken the links in the wall and it's allowing food to go through, what happens now is that those food-like objects can actually start attaching themselves to the nerves on the outside of the gut wall. And then that travels to the brain. And that's how we get anxiety, depression, mood swings, weight gain, all sorts of issues kind of happen. That's also where autoimmune can come about. That's where thyroid issues can come about. And so what we want to do is start looking at our gut and start treating our gut and eat what we talked about previously in all these slides before. Eating the rainbow, the higher the fiber, omega-3 fatty acids, all of those are going to be really, really helpful. And we're talking about the small portions. And this is what y'all got in your email from me. And this is important to really kind of hone in on, is that this is what we used when we went camping one time. I took pictures and here we go. But you can see how much chicken this is, right? This is filling up an entire, like half of a plate. And then, so this is chicken that's going to cause more inflammation, because I know I did not choose the right chicken when we went camping. Only a quart of it is my vegetables and a quart of it is my grains. Well, if you look over here, we can have higher quality chicken. So I can go from the cheaper like bagged chicken to the free range, the air chilled chicken, the no hormone, no antibiotic, because I'm going to reduce my portion size of the protein. So that's where you start looking at the protein is going to be the palm of your hand. So it's going to be appropriate for the palm of your hand, my hand, your kids' hands. So it's really a good guide. We have all these things attached to our bodies that we can use at all time. Or a deck of cards is kind of like a good idea. But only a quarter of our plate needs to actually be the protein. And then half of it, this is succotash that I had made, but half of it's going to be your vegetables. So, because that way we can get more of those antioxidants, those, those protective properties, that fiber that we're needing. And then a fourth of it's going to be your grain. So if you can look at this and say, okay, the portion sizes are going to be a lot smaller than probably most of y'all are used to, because we're going to start using our hands to measure everything, right? A fist is going to be your vegetables. I tend to do way more than that. So like I said, I do about half a plate, but this ends at a fist is usually about 1 cup. And then a cupped hand is about a half a cup. And then about a thumb's worth of healthy fat at every time you eat. You should have about 30% of your calories coming from fat. So you do need a decent amount of healthy fats in our diets. And so we want to watch our portions, right? And we also want to watch the frequency. So we do smaller portions, but we eat more frequent. The eating more frequent is going to help out with stimulating, it's called peristalsis. It's going to stimulate our bowels to move and do this. And many of us, when we have gut health issues, it's typically most of the time constipation, not pooping enough, unless you're an IBS type of person and you have the irritable bowel syndrome where you actually have diarrhea. Either way, small frequent is going to be helpful for that. Incorporate the anti-inflammatory foods all day long, because all day long we're stressing our bodies out in the car, when we're driving, when we're thinking about something, when you get upset for that hot second, or just the day-to-day, even working out is a stressor for the body. It's a good stress, but it does provide stress, onto the body. So we definitely need to make sure that we're aware of what's going on and eat enough throughout the day for that. So making sure that you're incorporating those nuts and seeds all throughout the day. Make sure that you're incorporating, can you get your vegetables in at breakfast? Is there something that you can make to have some veggies in? If you can't have it at breakfast, can we find a way to have it at your first snack, right? So just trying to find ways to incorporate all the foods we've been talking about and incorporate them all throughout the day. So it's really important to make sure that we have our guts, on check and working better for sure. And then stress and anxiety. So this one's really, everything that we've talked about so far is appropriate for this, right? Everything about gut health is crucial. Anti-inflammatory foods, all of that, really, really crucial. So again, processed foods, we have to remove those. And another thing we start out, if we have more stress and anxiety, or maybe you have, you're having hormonal, issues where you're starting to realize I'm starting to become a mean mom again, or you're starting to notice that your periods are really heavy and you're cramping like crazy. Removing hormone containing foods and processed foods will really help out with all of that. So one thing that I've had a lot of my students recently do is reduction or removal of eggs and dairy. Because if you think about eggs and dairy, the eggs themselves are going to become an animal, right, at one point. So they're actually very concentrated in hormones. They're naturally containing hormones, but they are going to be a living being. So we, living beings, we have hormones that we produce. And then if our hormones are all out of whack, so if we're stressed, right, and our cortisol is going through the roof, and we add in more hormone containing foods, then that's going to contribute to our hormones kind of being all over the place. Same thing with the dairy. And you have to kind of think about also your eggs, your meats, and too, the quality of your protein sources, the quality of the animal sources. If we're having animal proteins, like a chicken that was like raised next to another chicken, and there's just chickens side by side by side by side. Same thing with the dairy cow, right? Are they side by side by side by side? You have to think about that. They're going to be more stressed, right? They're stuck. They're not moving. They're not releasing that stress. So that they're going to have higher levels of cortisol naturally in them from being in that state. So if we are stressed ourselves and we consume more cortisol by drinking, more milk or eating a lot of cheese. And I love cheese. I love to eat brie, but I make sure that I'm not doing it every single day. It is a treat for me. It's something that we do very rarely and sparingly, because I have noticed that I'm a lot better person. I am a lot less stressed. I am a lot nicer when I don't eat them. When I don't eat them. And so it's been really cool to see how this is having an effect on a lot of my students too. So I know that can, and one of them recently too, she's like, oh, my mom, my mother-in-law, I'm getting the eggs from them. So I've been eating, 3 to 4 eggs a day. Once she backed off into, she's only doing it now, I think once or twice a week. She was like, yeah, like I had my period and it didn't even hurt me this time. So that was only like 3 weeks of her doing that. So it can like help really fast if you're just aware of all that. And in addition to all of this, she also started incorporating all the anti-inflammatory foods, right? More fruits and vegetables. So it's a combination of all of this. We've talked about those anti-inflammatory foods before, but replacing coffee with like a turmeric latte. And the reason why coffee itself is not inflammatory, but what happens with our someone who has anxiety, caffeine increases our heart rate. What happens when we have anxiety? Our heart rate increases. Well, we don't need to be having an increased heart rate and feeling anxious just because we drink coffee. And so it is really helpful. I have had myself very, very good results, and a lot of my students just reducing the amount of coffee that you're doing. When I initially did it, I did 3 months without any caffeine. That was my okay, I need to really kind of reset my body. So I didn't even have chocolate during that time. I didn't even have tea during that time. So I was very aware of what was going into my body. And now I don't have headaches from the caffeine. My anxiety's, under control. I feel a lot better. But I will say I'm more sensitive now to it. I had half a cup of tea the other night because I wanted to make sure I was awake at 11 o'clock at night, because that's way past my bedtime, to be able to drive myself and my husband home. Half a thing of unsweet tea. And I was like wired. So let's just say I didn't sleep that well that night. And that's another thing too, is that caffeine, with someone who is stressed or has more anxiety, we definitely want to make sure that you don't have any caffeine after noon. So after 12 o'clock, we want it to stop that, because that can actually start disrupting our sleep. Caffeine will actually prevent us from going into our deep sleep. So same as alcohol and caffeine, and also the blue light that we're getting right now from our TV screen, our computer screens, or our phone, all of those will actually prevent you from going into your deep sleep. And you go into deep sleep within the first 20 minutes of falling asleep. So it's a pretty fast process. But we know that sleeping better helps reduce inflammation. It helps us with our stress. It helps us with our anxiety. It helps with our gut health. It helps with everything. We need to make sleep a priority. So if you're having difficulty sleeping, definitely try cutting back on the coffee. Do the turmeric latte, because those turmerics, we can't forget about how powerful spices are for us. Spices are awesome. Like, I notice a difference in my knee just by one day missing my turmeric latte. Just by one day of it, my knee just starts, I have osteoarthritis in my knee, and I can just feel it like yell at me. So if you want to take it in pill form, that's fine, but I like to use as much food as possible. Tomorrow, we're going to be talking about supplements, and I can share more then if you're joining me tomorrow with that. But as much, I do take a lot of supplements, so that's why I want to use as much food as possible, so I don't have to take as much. And plus, I cook a lot with, I use cinnamon all the time in almost everything. It goes on my sweet potatoes. It goes on my butternut squash. Cinnamon is always found in my foods. You will find that almost everywhere. And then magnesium. Magnesium is a mineral that's found in a lot of our foods. It's found in pumpkin seeds, almonds, spinach, cashews. It's found in a lot more that's in here. But these are the ones that I like to, so this is what I like to do. So a lot of times I'll actually have like my pumpkin seeds with walnuts and I wrote magnesium, and some dark chocolate. I'll have that as like a combination right before bed, and that'll be my sweet treat. But it's also giving me all that magnesium and anti-inflammatory to help me relax. So what magnesium's job is, when we're stressed, have you ever noticed like you get like like tight muscles and you're like, oh my God, why am I so tight? You're burning through magnesium, you're burning through your B vitamins, you're burning through your omega-3 fatty acids. So we need to combat that all the time. And so if you start noticing that you're tight, what happens is that cortisol, a byproduct. So when I say byproduct, it's when it's been broken down after it's been used and abused, the cortisol, our stress hormone, its byproduct is lactic acid. So if you've ever had a cramp, that's lactic acid right there. So what magnesium's job is it takes the muscle from like this and it helps elongate it out. So it helps, out with relaxing those muscles. And so that's how it helps you sleep because but with the thing with magnesium is if you take it in a supplement form, that's why I like to have as much possible magnesium within our foods. If you take magnesium in a supplement form, our bowels are a muscle. So it can relax that as well, meaning it can cause you to go to the bathroom a little bit more. So it can cause you to have either the runs like diarrhea or just frequent bowel movements. All right, so B vitamins are crucial for stress and anxiety, crucial. And so if there are nervous system vitamins, they're the ones that protect us. We have what's called the myelin sheath. It's the outer layer of our nerves. So if you think about, this is like a nerve right here. This is right here, this is our B vitamins, this is my sleeve. So what happens when we get stressed out, we are burning through our B vitamins, or if we have other disorders like gut health issues, right? We don't absorb a lot of our B vitamins. And so the outer layer of the myelin sheath, the outer layer of our nerves can actually now become exposed. And so now you have like firing like everywhere. And that's when people start noticing like, they get the, what's the new thing that people started doing? The restless leg syndrome. When you get the tingling feet and you're like, my feet are all tingling. All that is just nerve damage from not eating enough B vitamins and not stabilizing the blood sugars. So we stabilize the blood sugars, but then also we start eating more B vitamin foods. And the thing is like some of these you're like, okay, Nicole, but you're told me to do less. If I have stress and anxiety, you want me to do less eggs and dairy, but some of these have eggs and dairy in it. So I just want you to choose, obviously, if you feel like, okay, I'm the one that's like, I have hormonal issues, obviously choose the animal source first and go that route. And then you can slowly have small portions of the animal sources. But like B6 is, it's called pyridoxine. It's found in dairy, salmon, carrots, sweet potato, eggs, avocado, chickpeas. Those are our garbanzo beans. That's our hummus right there. So if you can start incorporating, I eat almost a sweet potato a day, right? So you can get some of these B vitamins in very easily. But we just need to start incorporating more of these colorful meals, right? Colorful snacks, colorful foods into our diet. And the cool thing too is about like when you start doing the colorful food, not only does it like help out with the flavors because their greens and are going to be more bitter, your reds and oranges are going to be more sweet. So that helps balance that out a lot. But if you think about it, look, like my sweet potato, I'm going to balance it out so I can get my B6, and then I'm going to balance the flavor out with my green so I can get my folate. So inadvertently, you're already doing that by just looking at the different colors. So it's that color wheel is huge. I cannot stress that enough. Eat the rainbow, eat the rainbow. And then we're going to tomorrow be talking about some of us that have stress or have bad anxiety or even depression. We might need to have these in different forms. And so I myself have to take different forms of this because I don't have the ability to, my body doesn't convert it into the active form. So some of us might need to take supplements with a B vitamin. So we'll go over that tomorrow. Adrenal fatigue foods. So when we talk about adrenal fatigue, we are just foggy brain. We are just worn out. There is just like no gas in us. We hit that alarm clock every morning like 10 times or throw it across the room, right? We're exhausted. One of the things we start to do to combat that, eat the rainbow, omega-3 fatty acids, sleep, everything that we've talked about so far. But then now what we have to start doing is incorporating a little bit more of the liver cleansing foods. Liver cleansing foods, our livers do it by itself all the time. So it's not like I go on a detox and I'm, cured of everything. It's our bodies are detoxing all the time. But what we're wanting to do is give it a little bit more tools to be able to grab things and remove it. So add in the sea. Go to the ocean, right? Go back to the ocean. The ocean has provided us a lot of things that we kind of avoid sometimes. Let's eat some seaweed, some sea vegetables. So those algae, all of those are going to be great at binding to some heavy metals that are in our bodies. Same thing like cilantro actually is a great at binding heavy metals. So starting to use more herbs too to help out with that. Because if we have heavy metals in our body, they're stored in our liver. Because that's what our liver is. Our liver is our storage processing plant, basically. It's we have a little system that goes in there. But if that gets kind of clogged up, or it has or if you're having too high of carbohydrates, too many sugars, that can start becoming fatty. So you don't get fatty liver or high cholesterol from fat. You get it from sugar. You get it from too many refined, too many candies, too many white breads, white rice, not balancing out that blood sugar like we were talking about earlier, how we need to pair that. Like that, remember we were talking about that sweet potato. We need to add some flaxseed onto that sweet potato, pair that apple with some nuts. Even though that apple or that sweet potato is healthy for us, it can spike those blood sugars. And or let's say we skip meals. What if you're the meal skipper and you eat a little bit of breakfast and then you don't eat again until you get home from work? If that's you, your blood sugars are all over the place. You're more prone to have what's called a fatty liver. And fatty livers are reversible and it's very common. Many of us actually have it. We shouldn't have it, but it's very common. So what we do is we just simply eat everything that we should be doing. That we've been talking about. And again, we want to avoid caffeine. Caffeine, if you have stress, anxiety, migraines, adrenal fatigue, caffeine is not your friend. Dark chocolate can be, but caffeine itself, we want to try to not do as much. Okay, so now we're going to be talking about how to reduce migraines, how to reduce headaches, right? Again, eat the rainbow. Give your body what it needs. I don't know how many times I'm just going to keep drilling that over and over and over again, because that's one of the biggest takeaways I hope that y'all take from this. The healthy fats, right? Huge. We need to reduce inflammation. When we have migraines, what's happening is our blood vessels are actually inflamed. When we have headaches, our blood vessels are constricted. So when we have migraines, we need to reduce inflammation. And one thing too is when you actually have a migraine, caffeine is good at helping out, or if a headache, caffeine can help out a little bit. But what happens is if you're having caffeine every single day, we get what's called rebound headaches or rebound migraines. So you only do those very sparingly. And if you're like, well, Nicole, I'm getting migraines all the time, can I have caffeine? If you're getting headaches really frequently and migraines all the time, that needs to, we just need to cut cold turkey. It's going to be hard. It's going to still hurt a little bit, but you have to get your body away from that caffeine. You have to get it used to being in a state where it's not inflamed. And then again, sleep. I cannot stress this enough. We have to get into not even just regular sleep, but we have to make sure we're getting into that deep sleep, right? So we have to make sure we're not having caffeine too late in the evening. Watch the amount of alcohol we're having later in the evening. And then also watch the amount of blue light that's coming from these, right? My orange sexy glasses, I don't know if y'all have ever seen me wear my orange sexy glasses, but there are these huge honkers of orange, like blue light canceling glasses, because my sleep is that precious to me. I make sure that by 9 o'clock I am in bed because I get up at 5, right? So I need to be in bed if I'm going to wake up in the morning and feel energized. But also a lot of times we as females, we tend to, especially us moms, tend to say, okay, the kids are in bed. I'm going to stay up late so I can have my own time. And then that own time just becomes into a longer time. And then you don't feel good, right? So we just have to be better about utilizing our time with that. And sleep needs to be at your top of your priority. As much as you want to watch the Kardashians or whatever it is on, I don't watch. You just are the Bachelor, I don't know. You record it and watch it during the kids' nap time, or, just know it's going to take you twice as long to get there, because I guarantee if you have sleep a priority, no matter what is issues going on, that's going to help out so much. And then again, we were talking about the B vitamins. Again, headaches and migraines are nerves, in addition to the swelling of the blood vessels. So there's been a lot of studies that show like B12 deficiency, you tend to have more headaches and migraines. So the thing is, though, if we have gut issues, sometimes we don't absorb our B12 because there's this thing called the intrinsic factor that is in our small intestine that grabs that B12 and absorbs it. And if we have our gut wall has been damaged, that intrinsic factor can actually either migrate, and it can be in a different location, or it can just go away altogether. So we want to make sure that we have, in addition to eating all of these things, our gut, see how everything kind of ties into each other. Our gut health is definitely on point. And that consistency is key, honestly. The more consistent you are with everything, you're going to feel better faster. That's it. Like, you eat more of this enough throughout the day, and it's not like, okay, again, we're not going to just put all of our eggs at breakfast and say eggs in one basket. It's kind of a bad analogy since I'm talking about removing eggs, but we don't want to put all of our our anti-inflammatories just at breakfast, or all of our vegetables just at dinner. We want to make sure that this is a consistent throughout the day. This is a consistent thing every day as much as possible. And so that's where we get into I want to go out and have, dinner with my friends or go to lunch. Like, what do I do then? You enjoy yourself. You try to make the best choice that you can at that time. But you enjoy yourself. Don't beat yourself up if you've had something that you're like, it's a cheap food or it's not perfect. That gets you more guilt and more, that puts food kind of like up on this pedestal. We need to make sure like we take it down. Food, we're in control of food. Food is not in control of us. So we have to make sure that we are the ones that are saying, okay, if I have this is fine. It's not going to hurt me doing this, one time, and just get right back on track with the next meal. Simple as that. So I don't want y'all to beat yourself up if you do go and have ice cream or pizza or something with someone. Enjoy the company, have fun with it. And then the next time you just simply move on and you are ready to rock and roll. So I am going to, if y'all all three are muted, but if you have any questions, definitely you can unmute yourself, or I can unmute you, and I can answer them right now. So any questions that arise as we went along?
So I don't know if we've talked about this before, you and I, but I can't do wheat, so whole grains, obviously. I try to do more of a brown rice than just a plain white rice when I'm making my own flours and things like that. So but I can do quinoa, or no.
Yeah.
I can do quinoa.
Wheat, barley, and rye are going to be the only gluten.
Yes. Yeah. So I can, I know I tend to do more rice because I like it.
Yeah.
Should I be probably swapping out, like do quinoa instead of rice sometime, or,
So you'll get different nutrients. So they are going to have slight differently nutrient profiles. So I would do that. Quinoa, I don't know if you've ever tried Freekeh. Freekeh and quinoa are a complete protein. So let's say you don't feel like having meat, or if you're a vegetarian, Freekeh will help out with that. Freekeh is an ancient grain. It has a little bit different of a taste, but it has, it's like a cross between the quinoa and rice. I feel like.
How do you spell that?
Freekah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. But like all of that, anything like that's not wheat, barley, and rye, go for it. Like there's You should be fine with doing it. The only time people have issues with that is if it has been like cross-contaminated. So if you truly have celiac disease, you have to make sure that that's it. Or if it's just you've noticed gluten doesn't agree well with you and it's more like a sensitivity,
Right.
you should be fine. What I find when people have just like a sensitivity to it, it's more of just the type of fiber. It's not necessarily that.
Oh,
It's that you're not used to having that fiber in you. So at first you get a little bit of bloated. So then just giving it a couple of days of letting your body adjust to it and making sure you have the probiotics on board. So you might need to add in like a pill form of the supplement of the probiotic on top of making sure you're doing enough water, right? And your fruits and veggies. And yeah, that little combination should help out as well. And like I said, tomorrow we're going to be talking about like supplements to help out with gut wall lining and everything. But yeah, that should help. If it was just a sensitivity, that's typically what I see. It's also I see it also when it's during like a stressful time in someone's life when they get all of these like testings done, and I'm like, okay, of course you're not going to, we talked about, there's no blood flow going to the gut when you're stressed. It all goes to our muscles, right? Because we're there to fight or flight at that time. So checking the food sensitivities when you are stressed is not a good option. It doesn't give you a true understanding of what's really going on. But yeah, that was a good question. Long
awesome.
answer
Thank you.
for that. Anyone else have anything that I can help shed some light on? This is your time, ladies. Take my brain. But I did want to say, if you don't have anything right now, that's fine. You can always reply in an email if it like comes to you later. But as a big thank you, I know that we talked about stress and not necessarily the thyroid, but I have my programs only for y'all in the webinar, 50% off. So let's say you feel like, okay, I am just really, the stress and anxiety is really kind of like taking over my life right now. I need to like really tackle this. It's 50% off. So instead of $222, it's going to be $111, and it's a 4-week program. Both of them are 4-week programs. And I wanted to, wanted to show y'all. Here, let me do this one. Woo, look at that. I love those screenshots. I wanted to give you all a sneak peek of what these programs are. So you have, we come in here and you get very similar kind of teachings with me, except for mine, instead of like an hour long.
It's on your other screen still, Nicole.
It's still on my other screen?
Yeah, sorry.
Oh, okay. Let's see. I'm glad you told me that. Let me see how okay. Let me see if I could share it again. Better? Okay.
Yeah, perfect.
Whew, good. So yeah, instead of like an hour long, these like teachings that you'll get from me are only like 10 minutes, maybe 15 at the max. But the first one, like with this, all my programs, we go into rewriting your health belief. So inside here, you're going to have, you get a meal plan, you get all sorts of information, but we're going to start working on rewriting your health beliefs. Like last night on my call with my academy students, one of the ladies said, yeah, I can't ever lose the weight. It's just always stuck right there. And I'm like, wait a minute, that was your story. This is your story right now. That is beautiful. That you just found that out, that you just said that. Now it's time that now that you know what your story is, we get to rewrite it. And so that's kind of what we do right here is, why do you feel like you have anxiety? What's going on? We try to find the underlying issue. What's underlying problem going on? And then it's, you have it simple. It's 3 days out of every week. You have, this one is what's on your plate. We talk about that. You get a pantry checklist. We did the plate method that y'all already have. So you get all of these like nice handouts, nice guides to be able to help you out with. And it's been really a great program for these people to really feel better with. So like I said, it's just broken down into week 1, only 3 things here. How to use, food as medicine here. We talk about the supplements and then the lifestyle and everything of that. And then you get some bonus material and how to remove processed food and everything. So you're getting a lot of value here. And then, like I said, same thing with the thyroid program. So if thyroid's your issue, this thyroid program is for anyone that has hypothyroid, Hashimoto's, have partially removed or fully removed thyroid. It's not meant for hyper. But same thing, it's broken down really simple for you, 3 days out of the week. I have you in your welcome packet for both of them. I have you sign a contract with yourself. So that way you hold yourself accountable and say, okay, these 3 days, I'm going to tackle this. And so that way you hold yourself accountable. I'll try to do it as much as possible if you want to check in with me. But it's really that self-accountability is really strong here. And then
what if your thyroid's both?
What is your thyroid?
What if it goes back and forth between hypo and hyper?
It should help out. If you're stuck, just like, it's not meant for Graves. So if you swing both ways, like it's where you do go hypo then hyper, what's happening there is that your body hasn't found that homeostasis. It hasn't found that balance. And so it goes from one extreme to the other. So yes, it would definitely be for you if you were to do that, because what's happening is that it overcompensates itself when it swings to the hyper. So you start doing some of these things and then you swing over. And I'm assuming, are you still on medicine for it?
No, they've never put me on medicine, ever. He just said I have a leaky thyroid. So he calls it thyroiditis is what he calls it anyways. If that makes any sense. And he says that if I'm on medicine, it can harm me more than do me good. Either way I go. So we can't, because I go so back. Like when I go get a test, it'll be leveled out. And then one time it's low, one time it's high. I go from having the heart, going really fast just from different symptoms of it. But now that I've, since 2017, now that I've done like the food and taking out gluten and all the little steps, it's, it's so much better. With, everything I've done, taking out caffeine, just everything, it's a lot better now. But I go when I have my flare-ups or when my thyroid leaks, I guess is what you want to call it. Whichever way it goes, that's whenever I have my issues.
And do you notice that when you're having those issues, like, is there something going on in your life that's triggering this? Like, is there a stressor? Because sometimes cortisol can actually bind to TSH. So our thyroid stimulating hormone. So if we have a stressful time in our life, we can actually it could look like we are hypo. So it can actually kind of like do the opposite way. So you might honestly be swinging more on the hyper side of things more than likely. And then a stressful time comes and then you get these false lows on your labs. So that would be the thing where we might need to look into your T3, your reverse T3 as well. Because if you're having, let's say you have too much reverse T3, that means that we have something else going on too, so it's not just looking at the TSH. So that would be a little bit more that we would need to like look into to see.
It seems like every time I get all my levels done, it's like my T3, my T4, everything looks like in range, like the doctor's in range, I guess you can quote unquote say that. I think their in range is so much different than, what we've learned in range really is. But it's my TSH is what's always either, high or low. Like one time it was non-existent. But my T3, my T4 was in range, like fine. Like what could cause that? Like that's always been really confusing to me.
Yeah. Have they done like a pituitary, like have they done anything as far as like looking at your brain and pituitary to look at, because your pituitary controls your TSH. So that's a, component in our brain that needs to be activated to make the TSH. Also, we need to make sure, and we'll learn about more of this. I know you're on Friday's thyroid call, but making sure there's adequate amount of vitamin D, adequate iodine, adequate, nutrients there to actually make the TSH, and which I would assume you have adequate because it's converting from the T4 to the T3.
Right.
So, yeah.
I have a list I go in May, my next time to my endo doctor in May. So I have a list, like, I need to know what I need to tell them.
Yeah.
Because they kind of just tell you something and shove you out the door. And I'm just like, okay, I'm still having issues.
Yeah. Oh, I know. But yeah, we can definitely on Friday dive deeper. And as we're going through everything on Friday, just kind of take notes like, yes, I'm doing this. No, I'm not, what I can add in and see what's missing. And if you feel like there's still like, okay, I need to start doing a little bit more. Like obviously this program, you're getting to get like this thyroid program, you're going to get way more than what you are going to get on Friday. Right.
Right. Right. Yeah. No, I already have that in my budget. I told my husband, like, I want this.
Good. But yeah, so it's something really, really cool that, like I said, I'm not going to offer these programs to anyone else at half off. Next week, I might do like a 20% off for everyone else. But for you ladies that have joined, I want to say thank you so much for, being a part of this and really, wanting to feel better and learn about like, okay, how does food help me? What else do I need to do to really feel better and feel good? So
I had to take it in my own hands and go with it. Cause like I said, the doctors, well, there's no medicine we can give you. This is just going to be sick. And when I first met you, like I was dying, I thought.
Yeah. You were a hot mess. So, yeah. So you've been done amazing this last year. So like you've done like a 180. I mean, you're still, it's still a learning process. We're still growing. We're still incorporating. Yeah. I mean, I'm starting to incorporate more things into my life too. So, it's always going to be one of those, always an ongoing process for sure. But yeah, I'm glad you're doing better. So I do want to say thank you guys so much. I really appreciate y'all so much for doing this. And like I said, if you want the slides, message me. Well, if you have an idea of how I can get it to you, let me know. Because I even compressed it to the zip and it wouldn't upload. I don't know if it's just the MailChimp thing, my master thing. I don't know, but yeah. But I will send you here in a couple of minutes. I'm going to upload this to YouTube, and then y'all will get the YouTube links. That way you can watch the replay again if you want.
I still need yesterday's.
Good. And yeah, definitely. If you have any questions over the 2 programs that I have at half off, definitely message me, ask me anything, or just sign up because they work.
Awesome.
Thank you.
So, all righty. I will see y'all later and maybe see some of y'all tomorrow.
Yes, definitely.
All righty. Bye.
Thanks.